Hello and welcome to Mid-Coast Morning, CHLY's weekly current affairs show. I'm your host, Joe Pugh. Here's what we're following this week. It's been a busy time politically with multiple federal leaders passing through town. I was able to talk to NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh at Departure Bay Beach and ask about the election speculation that's been all over the media. And the Tokyo Olympics are less than a week away. I checked in with Parksville native Alicia Butterworth, who will be competing in the Steeplechase event, to see how she's feeling ahead of this unique Olympiad. And an island off the coast of Gabriola has a new owner, the BC Parks Foundation. I spoke with CEO Andy Day about what they are and how and why they're buying up land around the Salish Sea. Plus, 8 cents for a chocolate bar might sound like a bargain, but there was a time when that price was so high it led to a nationwide strike among our youth. A strike that started just down the road in Ladysmith. Nanaimo Children's author Lindsay Ford made this historical moment the subject of her latest book, Candy Bar War. She visited me in the studio last week to talk about it. And finally, live music is slowly but surely making its return to town. Glen Foster has an upcoming show at the Queen's Hotel, and he spoke to our Elijah Robinson about the show and his latest album. We begin, however, with a look at the headlines from our Elijah Robinson.
The March for the Children event, which will honor the children who lost their lives at the residential schools in the Gulf Islands, will be held on August 2nd at 9 a.m. in Chemainus. 2 healing sessions will also be held at the Penelakut School Gym on July 28th and August 4th. The events are being held in response to the unearthings of more than 160 undocumented and unmarked graves found in vicinity to the former Cooper Island Industrial School on Penelakut Island. The school was run by the Roman Catholic Church from 1890 to 1969. Then it was taken over by the federal government. It was closed in 1975 and demolished in the 80s. Considering the school's location, it was known as Canada's Alcatraz, according to the National Centre for Truth and Reconciliation. Previously, there were more than 100 documented deaths of students who attended the school. On Vancouver Island, there are 202 documented deaths at 5 residential schools. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission estimates the number is actually far higher, and the recent Penelakut discovery is evidence of that. The Namgis First Nation Council announced their decision to search for potential unmarked burial grounds that may exist around the site of the St. Michael's Residential School, which was active in Alert Bay on Cormorant Island from 1894 to 1974. Namgis Chief Don Svanvik says the sensationalization of the news is not acceptable, but the truth needs to come out.
Early on, I said, I believe there's probably unmarked graves in all the residential schools. But I've also told people I'm not speculating one way or another. We'll do the work and we'll find out what's what.
You can hear the full conversation on next week's episode.
It was an active week for federal political parties in Nanaimo. The leaders of the NDP and the Conservatives both passed through town on part of larger tours. This action comes amid speculation of a potential federal election later this year. I stopped by a meet and greet held by NDP leader Jagmeet Singh at Departure Bay Beach. It was an informal gathering with around 50 people in attendance. Many of those were protesting the provincial NDP government's handling of old-growth logging. After the event, I had the chance to briefly speak with Singh about the political speculation. You've been here on Vancouver Island a few days. Other federal party leaders are off traveling the country. Why is there this much activity all of a sudden?
Well, I normally would do this every summer, and I came back to my riding in Burnaby and look to spend some time in BC and connect with people out here. So for me, it's always important to do. I know that Justin Trudeau is looking for an excuse to go to an election, and I want to be really clear. I think it's the wrong thing to do. I'll be ready for an election if he calls one, but New Democrats believe we should be focusing on getting people vaccinated, making sure we get past the pandemic, getting people the help they need, helping small businesses through this. That should be the priority, not going to an election.
What has the atmosphere in Parliament been like these last couple of months?
Well, we showed not just these last couple of months, but since the beginning of the pandemic, we were able to push hard and fight hard and deliver more help to more Canadians. The Liberals often would do the minimum, so they started the wage subsidy at 10%. They started CERB. First of all, they didn't want to bring in CERB, and then they did bring it in at 1,000. They had nothing in terms of paid sick leave, and they completely missed out students. So we fought and pushed to get more help. We doubled CERB. We got wage subsidy up to 75%. saving millions of jobs. We were able to get people the support they needed so they could stay at home with paid sick leave and more money in their pockets so they could pay their bills. So what we've shown in this past, not just a couple months, but the past, since the pandemic, almost a year and a half, that we were able to fight and win victories that made people's lives better. And we were the only opposition party that was actually pushing people. And while the Liberals were satisfied with the minimum, we kept on pushing to get more help.
So just to be crystal clear, you're perfectly happy with the situation in Parliament, and with the next election not scheduled for until 2023, that situation seems just fine with your party?
Right. It's what the people chose. People gave us a 4-year mandate, and I believe that we can fulfill that four-year mandate. And particularly right now, while we are in the midst of this pandemic, we've already shown that we can get help to people. We can deliver supports, and that's what we should be focused on. The Liberals shouldn't be focused on trying to win a majority. They should be focused on getting help to people. That's not their priority. It doesn't look like it. It is ours, and that's why we're continuing the same clear message. Let's not hold an election while we're in this pandemic. Let's get help to people. But if the Liberals want to do this election for their own political gain, we'll be ready to fight it.
And I know it's a provincial matter, but at today's meet and greet, there were a ton of old growth logging protesters, and I'm wondering if there's a message you'd like to give to them.
Well, I care deeply about the old growth. I think it's really important. I've had the opportunity to be in the presence of old growth, and like so many people, these are very special and spiritual trees. They mean a lot to people. I also very deeply respect Indigenous right and title, and I believe that we can't make decisions without making sure the decisions are based on what the Indigenous communities, who are the title holders and the treaty right holders of the land, that they have the right to make those decisions, and we need to work with them. And the final piece is we need to make sure we are building an economy that's sustainable, where we create good jobs, but we're also protecting our environment.
I also reached out to the office of Paul Manley, our current MP, and that of Aaron O'Toole, who was also in town this week, but did not hear back from either as of this recording. Time will tell if Nanaimoites will be headed back to the polls federally for a third time since 2019. At the moment, federal party leaders are simply stopping in town as they tour the country despite a global pandemic. Read into that what you will. 1 year after being postponed, the Tokyo Olympics are finally set to get underway. There's been a bit of controversy as Tokyo is experiencing its highest COVID case numbers in 6 months. Nonetheless, the opening ceremony will take place Friday, July 23rd, and Canada's athletes will soon be on their way to Japan, if they aren't there already. One of those athletes is Parksville native Alicia Butterworth, who will be competing in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. I spoke with Alicia earlier this week to see how she's feeling ahead of her Olympic moment. Well, first of all, congratulations on making it to the Tokyo Olympic Games. Do you know when you leave?
Yes, I leave on July 19th.
July 19th. Oh, that's so soon.
Yes.
Where are you calling in from now, may I ask?
I am just calling in from Burnaby.
Burnaby. But you grew up in Parksville nearby. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So I moved to Parksville when I was 13, so I went there for high school. But yeah, I still consider it my hometown, and I really just loved being there. They had an awesome track team, and it was a ton of fun.
And you're competing in the steeplechase, which is a super unique and really cool event that I feel like maybe some people don't know exactly what it is. So it's a 3,000-meter obstacle course. There's hurdles. There's a water pit. Is there anything else you think people should know about steeplechase as a primer?
No, it's basically, I kind of describe it as a long-distance hurdle race, but as you said, instead of hurdles, it's barriers. So if you run into them, you fall down. They do not fall down. But otherwise, it's kind of similar to a long-distance hurdle race.
And your path to make it to these Olympics in this strange year has been an interesting one. You've had to only train and do races in Canada. What's that been like?
Yeah, it was definitely stressful, especially considering there were so many high-quality races going on in the U.S., and they were happening in April and May, and we had to wait until June to race. And so it was was really difficult to just kind of see everyone racing so fast and see all these great racing opportunities pass us by. But we had made the decision to stay in Canada, and so we just kind of had to bide our time and wait for our races to come up in June.
And it went right down to the wire for qualifying, as I understand it, right? It was something like 2.5 hours before the deadline you had your last race?
Yeah, exactly. We were, I think the last meet we raced in Montreal was the last meet, I think, anywhere in the world during the qualifying period.
And also, as I understand it, to make the Olympics, there's 2 ways to do it. You can run a time of under 9 minutes and 30 seconds, or you have to qualify sort of based on points and ranking. And your time was just 1 second away from like an automatic qualification. What was that like?
Yeah, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow because I really did want to get that automatic qualifying time. The point system is still quite new. It's only been in effect for a few years, and I personally think that it still needs some refinement and that it's not always fair. And so the only way to really guarantee yourself a spot is to run under the auto qualifying time and then also be top 3 in your country, because only 3 people per country can go. So having to go off of the points just makes it a little bit more nerve-wracking, because different track meets around the world are assigned a different number of points. And so someone somewhere else may run much slower than you, but get a lot more points because that track meet was allotted more points.
But you made it nonetheless. You're going to Tokyo, and I'm wondering about how you feel about that trip, because I know there's a lot of COVID flaring up in Tokyo. A lot of athletes are concerned about that. How are you feeling about the whole situation?
I personally, I feel bad that more of the Japanese public has not had the opportunity to get vaccinated, because I know that it's a vaccine supply issue, not that they don't want to. But we are actually going to be, all the Olympic athletes are going to be very separate from the Japanese public the entire time. We're not allowed to go essentially anywhere in public. We have to be on approved Olympic transportation all the time. We have to be accompanied by approved Olympic officials. So there's going to be very little crossover between the Japanese people and any Olympic athletes, other than the people who are volunteering and working the games.
And how does this situation affect, I guess, your personal feelings and the atmosphere, the mood going into the Olympics?
It's definitely going to be a very different Olympic Games than ever before. There's going to be no spectators. And I know that having a bunch of people from different countries travel into Japan are making the locals wary. And I do feel kind of bad about that situation. But at the same time, I think that they've put every precaution in place that they could possibly do. And any time that you get to represent Canada is just an amazing opportunity. And so even though there's going to be no one in the stands cheering, I know that I'm going to have a lot of people back home here cheering, and I'm just going to channel that energy into my race. Absolutely.
And your race goes Sunday, August 1st, if I understand the schedule right?
Yes. So in Pacific time, it's actually Saturday, July 31st at 5:40 p.m., but it will be the morning of August 1st for me in Japan.
Oh, that's perfect primetime viewing here at home.
Exactly, yeah.
And is there anything else? Let's end on a happier note. What are you most excited about heading into these Olympics? I'm really excited to get my chance to race against the world best and represent Canada on an international stage again, and really see what I can do to perform my best and represent the Maple Leafs. Well, we're all pulling for you. Thank you very much for taking some of your time to speak with me. I know it must be a very busy and hectic and stressful time leaving for Tokyo in less than a week.
A little bit, but nothing that I can't manage.
Canadian Olympian Alicia Butterworth, speaking about her upcoming trip to Tokyo. You can watch Alicia compete in the Olympic Steeplechase Saturday, July 31st, around 5:45 p.m. You're listening to Mid-Coast Morning on CHLY. Saturnina Island is right off the coast of Gabriola. Just recently, it found itself with a new owner. It wasn't bought by a millionaire looking for a private retreat. Instead, it was bought by the BC Parks Foundation, a charity dedicated to expanding the park system in our province. I heard about the purchase and wanted to learn more about why and how this land was being bought. So I spoke with Andy Day, CEO of the BC Parks Foundation. You've recently made a number of purchases and got some donations to make some big purchases. I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about some of the areas that the BC Parks Foundation has been able to buy.
Yeah, we've had a great run in the last couple of years. So we're a fairly new foundation, just 3 years old. And in 2019, we launched a crowdfunding campaign to purchase 3 parcels of land in a place called Princess Louisa Inlet on the Sunshine Coast. And we needed to raise $3 million in 3 months. And everyone thought we were crazy. We had no list. We had no marketing people. We just kind of had this idea that this was a really beautiful place that needed to be protected. And we reached out, we talked to some other groups and they said, oh, just go for some big wealthy individuals and don't bother with small donors. And I just didn't, I kind of fundamentally disagreed with that. I had this feeling that people in British Columbia really love BC and want to keep it beautiful. And so we did a crowdfunding campaign and we ended up raising the $3 million right on the last day. And it ended up in the New York Times and BBC World News. It went all around the world, and it was one of the first examples of crowdfunding for a public park. And so since then, to get back to your question, we've protected a place called West Bolinas Island, which is in the Salish Sea, just off of kind of Nanaimo Bay, Parksville area. We've protected a place called Saturnina Island off of Gabriola Island near Nanaimo, again in the Salish Sea. We've protected a place called Lonesome Lake, which is up in the Chilcotin area in British Columbia. And that's the place where trumpeter swans were brought back from the edge of extinction through the heroic effort of Ralph Edwards and his family. And then also some land on the Cowichan River, Heritage River in Canada, and around on Cowichan Lake. And then another property up in Princess Louisa on the other side of it. So it's over, and then a big, really massive property up in the north in a place called Mount Adziza Conservancy with the Talltown Nation.
When you buy these properties, what happens next to the land?
Yeah, so it depends on each parcel. In the case of Mount Adziza, for example, with the Talltown, that involved the BC government and the Talltown and a mineral company and a couple of other partners. And the agreement there was to have the province designated as a conservancy, which is a type of designation under the Parks Act. In the case of Saturnina Island, for example, we worked with the Islands Trust Conservancy. So they will, the Islands Trust is the local government in the area. They have a conservancy organization. They manage what they call nature reserves. So we lease it to them. They have it on a long-term basis. And then similarly with some of the other properties, basically we will lease that land on a 99-year basis to an agency that manages it. And that way we make sure the property is always going to be a park no matter what happens to the agency of choice. Occasionally we'll donate directly to a government like BC Parks. If they're making an acquisition and they're paying for part of it, we'll pay for part of it. And then they own it and it just becomes part of the regular park system.
And I'm also wondering who owns some of these lands that you're buying before you buy them.
They are almost all private lands. So in BC, 94% roughly of the province is owned by the people of BC, and then about 6% is private. But in certain areas like the Salish Sea, 80% of land is privately held. And so in order to get that land in protected or in park status, we go onto the market and we bid and we purchase.
And some of these purchases, like West Bolinas Island, which is 100 acres, if I'm not mistaken, you were able to purchase that for $1.7 million. I mean, that's like the price of 2 houses here in Nanaimo. I'm curious about how some of these private islands go for these prices.
Yeah, well, islands are funny, but there's kind of a unique market for islands because there's individuals who want to have their own private place with a big moat around it. So they have kind of unique value. Accessibility can be an issue as well. But typically we look for property that could be subdivided and developed and try to protect from that.
And I'm really curious about the need for, I guess, a foundation to exist. Isn't this something like the BC government could not be doing on their own, buying some of this land from private citizens and protecting it like BC Parks as opposed to the BC Parks Foundation? How did the need for your organization arise?
It came about because we have the 6th largest park system in the world in BC. There's over 1,035 parks now. It holds 75% of Canada's mammals are in British Columbia, and more biodiversity anywhere in North America. So it's recognized obviously within BC, but also internationally as one of the most important places to protect in the world. We're kind of like, if you think of the Amazon in the tropical zone, BC is a bit like that for the temperate zone. And so, that's a huge undertaking just to maintain and manage the parks we have, let alone to try to expand. So a lot of scientists are saying we need to get to 30% of the earth protected in the next 10 years. And then another 20%, so 50% total as 20% as buffer. It's just going to be really difficult for government alone to do that while taking on the cost. The second part of that is that if you think of hospital foundations or education foundations or police foundations, etc., that model is really well established, where there's government kind of covers the backbone of the system, and then the community, businesses and individual donors, etc., enhance that by adding, a wing to a hospital or a new building or a new business school or something in a university.
That makes a lot of sense to me. So are there other lands nearby in the Salish Sea that are still up for purchase that you're looking at?
We were really fortunate to get a purchase and sale agreement on a 256-acre waterfront parcel on the southwest side of Lasqueti Island. And that's something we've been working on for a couple of years with the family. And it's just a really, really beautiful, unique property. And that one, so we have until October to close that. So we'll do a bit of fundraising there to make up the difference between what we have and what we need. And that'll be joined with Squiddy Bay Provincial Park, which is right there. And is really excited about that. It's just an absolute gem. And then our eyes are always open. We don't talk about things that we might do.
Fair.
We obviously don't want to inflate the prices, and we don't want to tip our hat in any one direction. But certainly always on the lookout for beautiful parcels. And we've had a couple, people approach us who are landowners who are getting older and they're wondering, kind of what to do with their property. They'd like to see it protected, and so I think we'll see more of that in the coming years with an aging population on the Gulf Islands.
And is there anything else you'd like people to know about the BC Parks Foundation?
I would like people to know that it's just one of the greatest things that I see happening in BC right now. And I don't say that, I love my job, but I say that not because I think, we've done anything great as an organization or whatever, but because we have had literally like thousands and thousands and thousands of British Columbians and people from around the world getting involved and being incredibly excited. And, whether it's the land purchases we've been talking about, or we did another campaign to collect observations, and now we're at like 1.6 million observations of nature in BC. Just this incredible outpouring of goodwill and of real kind of pride in being British Columbian, and of wanting to keep BC beautiful. And we're really showing international leadership right now as a province. And so I just want people to know that they're part of a incredible province and an incredible community who are really, going for it and doing, amazing things that are catching the world's attention. So I'm, feeling great about being British Columbian right now, I gotta say.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Andy Day, CEO of the BC Parks Foundation, speaking about recent land purchases in the Salish Sea. You're listening to Mid-Coast Morning on CHLY. When kids in Ladysmith went to bed one April in 1947, the price of a chocolate bar was 5 cents. So you can imagine their frustration the next day when the price had shot all the way up to 8 cents overnight. Rather than take this news lying down, they gathered in front of the local cafe, made up signs, and to protest the price increase, they bought ice cream, which was still 5 cents. The movement gained national attention and spread across the country, with marches in Toronto, Edmonton, and other communities throughout Canada. The story inspired Nanaimo Children's author Lindsay Ford, who made it the subject of her latest book, Candy Bar War. She joined me in studio last week to talk about it. What drew you to this story?
Okay, so funny story how things come about for me in my, path to creation. I was actually curious to see, I have a 4.5-year-old daughter now, but a couple of years ago, I noticed just how much candy she loved, and like chocolate was her like be all end all. So I basically was just like, wow, imagining a world where if kids were cut from candy, like what would the world look like? So I was drawing these little characters, and I just was thinking in my head it would be great to make a book somehow about kids giving up candy. Is that even a thing? Like, would you ever believe that? That was like a couple years ago. Fast forward now to last year, and I had a friend say, hey, Lindsay, have you ever heard about the Candy Bar War? And I was like, what's that? But you have my full attention. Because now thinking back to my characters I had written or drawn a couple of years ago on that very subject, I was like, no, tell me more about that. And she let me know about this Candy Bar War that had occurred on Vancouver Island. And it began in Ladysmith and Chemainus when children decided to boycott the candy bar because of the price raising overnight from 5 to 8 cents because of inflation post World War II. And I was like, no freaking way. I was like, wow, I literally was just like drawing up characters a couple years ago about this similar kind of subject, kids giving up candy. And I couldn't believe that it had happened in history. So kids had sworn off the candy bar. It happened.
And this became like a big national movement, this candy bar strike that started in Ladysmith.
It did. It trickled down to Victoria. Word traveled, and parents joined in as well. It made news, and then it traveled across Canada. So it became a Canadian occurrence, but which started here. But it's so cool to see that what started from children protesting cost in effect did change it. So the government came in and said, we're sorry about this, and we'll change the price back. So they actually did change the price back to 5 cents, but they also, I've heard, created two prices for candy bars, which was 10 cents and 5 cents to accommodate for that.
In doing my research, I came across that the strike, it gained a lot of momentum. They called it a strike. Kids refused to buy the candy bars for 8 cents, so sales plummeted. Instead, the kids were buying ice cream cones, which were still 5 cents. I think one of my big takeaways was, imagine a world where an ice cream cone costs as much as a chocolate bar. Like, can we go back to 1947?
Can we go back? Exactly, right? 5 cents. So kids were like, I'm not paying 8 cents for this candy bar. We'll just buy ice cream, which remained at 5 cents. So that's when they protested. They stood outside the general stores with their ice cream cones and their signs saying, quit candy bars, you know? Like, who needs a 5 cent or an 8 cent bar? It's too crazy for us. We can't handle that.
Yeah, look how it happened now. But I also...
what's the cost of a candy bar now? What, like $3? $2.50?
I feel like a candy bar, well, it depends on the size, right? Like, I think each year, rather than raise the price, sometimes they just make the bar a little smaller. But I think ice cream now is way more than candy bars, right?
I don't know. I guess it depends on are you getting a specialty cone?
Fair.
Here?
We're getting into the weeds here. We're getting into the weeds. But in doing my research, though, I also read that the strike nationally, it actually hit a roadblock. A lot of people, like a lot of organizations, got involved in helping them out, and some labor movements got involved in helping with the kids, and everything was going really well until this big Toronto newspaper kind of ran a front page editorial, and it accused the kids of being secretly influenced by communists. Did you come across that?
I did see that as well. And of course, you know, like, yeah, that's exactly what was going on. No, for real. Like, I mean, come on. Of course, someone's going to roll in and probably make an article about this saying that this had happened. Like, okay, they put kids up to this to, you know, like well, I'm not sure. I wasn't there at the time. I actually don't know this, but that's the conspiracy. So that ended real quick. So everyone pulled out, parents and kids. The strike ended after that, but also the price adjusted. So, you know.
So interesting. So what lessons does this have for us today?
Well, I mean, when I look at this book, the phrase that comes to my mind is the kids are coming. And it's kind of like, I make this I'll call it a children's book series because it's easy to sell that way. But really, when people say, who are these for, these books? Who are they for? And I say, well, anybody. They're people books. Anyone, any age could pick up this book and get something from it. And so I like to think of these books for children, if they are, arming them with this knowledge of look at what in history what kids have done that you could also do if you don't like something. You can get together, and it's the power of working together that I like to stress too, especially for anyone, children, people. Like, if we come together and work together, look at the things that we can do, look at the changes that we can make together, not separate. It's together, right? Yeah. So.
And is that the kind of thing, I'm wondering also, like, what spurred you to get into writing children's books?
Well, that's a loaded question, but my mom passed away about 4 years ago, and before she did, she encouraged me to go forward with making children's books. I was already I had been writing all my life. I had written travel blogs and worked for magazines and things like that. But to find a voice for children's books, I hadn't really found that yet. And then I became a mother, and I wanted to share with my daughter, things that I had learned from my world travels and things from around, and other children, kind of like I wanted to just build a toolbox for them, one that I could have used as a child. So I'm kind of speaking, when I make these books, I make them for my inner child. Like, it's like, what did I need back when I was 8, 9, 10? What could I, like, writing wise, what gravitated to me? What was I gravitating to? Like, I remember reading Aesop's Fables and anything with like a really cool lesson attached to it, Berenstain Bears. And I'm like, oh, look at all these like things I'm learning from books. I wanted to do the exact same thing and make it about true events, true people. I'm very drawn and influenced by events around me, like history and people, largely culture. So, I mean, I just feel like I'm helping build a toolbox for children via literature. I mean, I'm promoting literacy and knowledge. It's information. Also just to show them like this is based on true events. Like, look how cool his history is. So it's encouraging even just like looking at history and learning and, which is encouraging more reading and learning about people and the culture that we come from. And yeah, I think that's kind of where I've come from with that.
And you also do the illustrations for all of your own books. How did that come about?
Well, when I first started out making books, I was like, oh, I'll try and find an illustrator to work along with me. I'd love to work with the community. I'm big in supporting that, working with people close to me. And in doing that, I just ended up, waiting on the time it would take for someone to, help me out and, waiting on someone like weeks, because they're busy too. I was gifted with an iPad and encouraged to consider trying this myself. I mean, I can draw, and I wasn't afraid of trying. It was just that, can I do this? Am I good enough to do this? I mean, like anything, it's kind of scary. I'm like, I don't know if I am qualified. I was self-taught, especially in artistry. I mean, I majored in English literature, so I can write a story, but can I draw to go along with this? I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll give it a shot. But in the time it took for me to illustrate a full book, like I got it done. And then the person I had asked to help me finally comes through and goes, hey, I have like one sketch. And I'm like, well, I did the whole damn book. So maybe I'll just go with what, thank you. But maybe I can do this. And, I people around were showing their support. I mean, I know it's tough when they're your friends and your family. You want honest criticism, right? Let me know if this is all right. But the evolvement, like from my very first book, which came out in 2017 to now, you can see the development of my art forms. I mean, it's different, very much so, which is great because it's become better. And I do have people from time to time, say, oh, this is very much like Robert Munch or something like that. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, that's such a compliment because I do make the whole book. I do the whole damn thing. I write the scripts. I draw the pictures to go with them. And it seems to be working. People enjoy them. So
that's fantastic. That almost sounds like the story in one of your books.
It does. It does sound like a story. It's mine.
And I'm wondering what is coming next after Candy Bar War? What is the life of a children's author like? How often are books coming out?
Man, people are always amazed at how quickly I work. They're like, you just made a book, like Science Girl just came out a couple months ago. How do you have another one? That's insane. And I'm like, when I have an idea, it's kind of hard to not do it. It's like, I'll go crazy if I don't make it. And I have lists in my house of all these ideas. Like I've got ideas for books planned up until 2024. And I can work pretty quick. Like I got this book done in about a month. Like I can, once I sit down and get to it, it happens pretty quick for me. Having said that, so the next book in this series will be Lonely Doug, which I'm not sure if you know who Lonely Doug is.
I do not.
You have no idea.
Who is Lonely Doug?
Lonely Doug is he's an old growth tree, very old. We don't know how old Lonely Doug is. He's well over 1,000 years, they predict, though. But he stands alone down in Port Renfrew in an area that was clear cut a long time ago. But he was a saved tree, a logger. If you read about him, like a logger from way back in the day that was asked to cut him, decided to save him instead because they just thought he was such a peculiar looking tree. The way he looks is just he's an oddball tree. You're kind of like, what? You look at him because it's like, what a weird looking tree. So he stands alone there. He's huge. Like his trunk is like the size of like your living room. And he has like no branches all the way up. He's just kind of like a bare tree and just kind of keeps going and keeps going. And then at the very top, he kind of has this like quirky looking, like folded over kind of like Christmas tree looking thing. Like he's like kind of like, meh. Like, I don't know if he's like happy here or what, but like he's like just there. And there's nothing around him, which is kind of a very, like, it's especially now with this deforestation issue and old growth cutting and the Fairy Creek blockades that are happening here now. It gives me tingles even to talk about it, to see how, like, because once before there were trees all around him and now there's nothing for a while, and it's kind of a crazy feeling to see the effect of the deforestation. And he's one of the oldest trees, which then supplements so much of the other growth around. The whole ecosystem relies on a tree like that that's been around for thousands of years. It's like ancestry, right?
Yeah. I think that's very, fitting, topical. We've talked about, we've been following the Fairy Creek story on the show. And certainly I think one of the cool things about children's books is they have the power to like condense very strong or important or large issues into almost like a metaphor like that is very easy and impactful to understand.
Well, especially over the course of the last year. With COVID, a lot of us were forced to be alone. Yeah. So loneliness and then being alone was very much a theme for all of us. And then you look at a tree like Doug, who's been standing alone for a very long time. And I'm like, man, I need to write a story about this. Like, is he lonely? They call him Lonely Doug because he stands alone, but is he actually? And that's the other thing too. We've had this year, and I felt lonely. But then in that time, I was really able to spend a lot of time with myself. So was I in fact really lonely if I had me and I had the things that I came to find about myself and in that time? So the story is essentially about that. Is he and are we actually lonely? So.
And do you have you probably don't want to spoil the book, but can you give us a bit of an answer, a bit of a preview, a hint one way or the other?
Well, I do like to, I don't want to give away the book, of course, but I do like to, I will say that, it does kind of emphasize the fact that like, it's a perspective. If you choose to look at it that we're lonely solely here with nothing else, then that's what it is for you. But if you decide to look at it as I'm here and there is a lot else around, then there's that too. So it's just a perspective.
All right, very fitting. I think we're running out of time, so we'll have to leave it there. Lindsay Ford, thank you so much for joining me. Lindsay Ford is a local author. You can catch her new book, or you can find her new book, Candy Bar War, by visiting her website, breadandclutter.com.
Hard on the outside, soft in the middle, keeping it all on the inside, like it's alright when it isn't. I melt in the sunlight, baby I pop and I fizzle, trying to guess what's inside. Hope you don't mind, I'm a riddle. Ooh, everyone's got edges, build them to survive, but I wanna open up and show you my softer side. I'm candy, I'm sweet, unwrap me. I'm candy, I'm sweet, I'm candy, I'm sweet, understand me. I'm candy, I'm sweet. All in a deep dive, I'm coming up in a minute. Everything changes on the inside when the sun shines just a little. I'm not making it easy, I'm not moving too quickly. Can't keep on looking on the outside when the answer is within me. Ooh, everyone's got edges, build them to survive, but I wanna open up and show you my softer side. I'm candy, I'm sweet, unwrap me. I'm candy, I'm sweet, I'm candy, I'm sweet, understand me. I'm candy, I'm sweet. I'm candy, I'm sweet, unwrap me. I'm candy, I'm sweet, candy. I'm sweet. Understand me. I'm candy. I'm sweet.
Candy from Serena Ryder. You're listening to Mid-Coast Morning on CHLY, also available as a podcast. Live music is slowly but surely returning to Nanaimo. There have been a number of gigs around town already at venues like the Vault and the Queens, which is playing host to another show on the 24th. That Saturday night, the Glen Foster group will be playing at 6, and ahead of the event, our Elijah Robinson spoke with Glen about his music.
I understand you have an extensive history in music. I can kind of hear it coming through in Not Far Away. Can you tell me about your creative process when it comes to putting together this latest album as well as the last album? What does it typically look like for you?
I think it kind of all boils down to the creative process. For me, typically starts with inspiration, and that can come in, all kinds of forms or any sort of reality that can present itself that becomes inspiring, whether it's, visiting a new place or having a new experience. But, generally new things and exciting things that motivate me to either create some music or just come up with lyrical lines that, are something that seems kind of current and relevant to me. So then, if it is a lyrical type of thing, and sometimes it's just, lines that come to me that I'll start to rhyme, and, I could sit in bed for one example and just, write an entire song lyrically. And add music later. But on the other hand, I get musical inspiration. I think that happened for Three Man Band too, when I just picked up my guitar and started playing a riff, and I'm thinking, maybe sounds a little bit like a Deep Purple riff or who knows, anything, and that will inspire the rest of the song to come along too.
And how do you figure the pandemic has contributed to that process?
That's a good question, and a very relevant question because, of course, without going out and playing live shows for several months, you're kind of confronted with what am I going to do with my time? So, practice your guitar. I sort of had a show that I was working on to present sort of late in 2020, and that never really materialized, but I kept practicing. I was learning a bunch of new songs for it, not necessarily my own compositions, but we're just working hard at my instrument and getting my chops, really up where they should be. That and the fact that people have more time, and so what are you going to do with it? And it lends itself to the songwriting process as well. So hopefully there's inspiration there. And I came across a few things that I was inspired about. And I really wanted to avoid the thing of saying, oh, poor me, poor us, here we are suffering, I can't play gigs, or, I'm so sad because, I can't get out in front of people. Just steered away from that and say, well, it's not the things that I'm giving up here. It's like, what am I experiencing that inspires me to write a new song or to play my guitar? And so I kind of look for all the positive things that were happening, and I think it's great if you have the luxury of some free time, sometimes we'll go to the beach or we'll go down to the ocean or, get in the car and go for a drive or go out in a boat, but also, just to be able to think and come up with, things that are inspiring to me to be able to create, and also inspiring to other people to listen to and motivate them to, not get hung up on the fact that, hey, we're in a pandemic and things are shut down. But, how can we make the most of that?
I'm wondering if you and the band have any plans for the summer show, following the summer show.
Yeah, I have several bookings, actually, throughout the summer. And come to think of it, I think maybe all of them or most of them are outdoor shows, different sizes. But there's one in the Old City Quarter in September. That's a series of shows that we're going to be doing. We're going down to Duncan to play the 39 days this weekend, or Saturday night. We'll be down doing 39 days. And there's one in Ladysmith. I play in Ladysmith just about every year for one of their outdoor events. And, some things like that.
Thank you for your time. And, I look forward to the show and what you have coming up.
Okay. If there's one thing to add, that might be where people could get tickets for the show on the 24th of July, and that would be at Fascinating Rhythm downtown. Pop in and see Steve and ask for a ticket. And people can also contact me through Messenger or email me, or just go to my website, glenfoster.ca, and send me a message, and we'll fix you up with some tickets.
Glen Foster speaking with our Elijah Robinson about his upcoming show at the Queen's Hotel. His band is playing next Saturday, the 24th at 6 o'clock. Now here is the Glen Foster Group, 3-man band.
Black
That's our show for today. Thank you for listening. Midcoast Morning is hosted and produced by Joe Pugh and Elijah Robinson. Thank you to Jesse Woodward and R.B. Frew for production assistance. Our theme music is Good Company from Nanaimo band Venice. You can find their music on Bandcamp. You can also help support Midcoast Morning as a project of CHLY's news department by making a donation at chly.ca/donate. Have a story you'd like us to cover or feedback on a previous story? Email us at news@chly.ca. For everyone at Midcoast Morning, thanks again for listening.